that voting behavior. The one vote where he didn't cast a vote was on the surge, and that was probably the vote he should have cast, but he didn't vote on that particular legislation.
You know, my opponent is right. I missed the vote on the surge. And I gave a lengthy statement on the floor of the House. And I don't know where his priorities in life are, but mine were with my wife's father, who died, and we went to the funeral. That's why I missed the vote. If that's not good enough for you, I'm sorry, I don't meet your standards.
Pass the microphone down. I'm going to start Mr. Stein because I think you want to address something that Mr. LoBiondo had voted on, so I'm going to let you go first on this one. But I wanted to ask about whether each of you support the continued U.S. presence in Iraq and Afghanistan, and particularly with Afghanistan, what each of you think will be the result of our presence there when we finally start scaling back our combat role next year as planned. Mr. Stein?
I think in one of these questionnaires, I've been sent many of them, I answered almost every single one of them. I think in one of them I was asked about Afghanistan, and I said I'm for continuing the presence there, but I don't have much confidence that we're going to get a satisfactory result, and I don't think anybody really knows which way to go with this. It could go any number of which ways. As far as Iraq, I supported the troop surge. I thought the congressman supported the troop surge. I find out 6 or 7 months ago that he was against the troop surge in 2007, so I don't find it consistent with the statements he's making now about our situation in Afghanistan and Iraq. At a debate 2 years ago, I'd like to have I'll give up some of my time and maybe the congressman could respond to this. At a debate 2 years ago with Mr. Kurkowski, he gave the impression over and over and over again that he was for the troop surge. He continuously invoked the name of General Petraeus and Robert Gates, saying that they were doing the right thing. They finally come along, and he disparaged the name of Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz. And it turns out that in 2007, he went on record as being against the troop surge. I'd like to have the congressman respond.
Well, I'm not on record on any votes of being against the troop surge, ever. The Democrats, when Republicans lost control in 2006, it seemed they were obsessed with getting us out of Iraq, embarrassing George Bush, changing the policy. It seemed like we had a vote a week on setting a timeline, on bringing the troops home, on cutting off funding, on doing all these things. I never voted for one of those ever. Now, in January of 2007, Mr. Bush announced the surge. One of the things that we, I think, are to do as members of Congress is to try to understand the implications and not rubber stamp policy. The vote that was coming up was to set a timeline. That vote was in February of 2007, to set a timeline. I've been criticized for missing the vote, and I did miss the vote. I missed the vote because I went to my father-in-law's funeral. I would do the same thing again. And I clearly announced that I would vote against the resolution to put a timeline in place if I had been there, if it hadn't been for the funeral. Now, I had reservations when the plan was originally announced because I felt the Iraqis had not been doing enough. But what I have done repeatedly is attempt to understand from a perspective on the ground. Made repeated trips. I've been to Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan a number of times trying to understand what the situation is on the ground. And it became very clear to me in the ensuing months, March, April, May, June, that this was absolutely the right strategy to do. And that's what I supported. And my votes reflect that consistently.
What was the right strategy? I'm sorry.
Are we doing direct questioning here, or?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, is
no.
I mean, did I answer your question? Do you have any questions about my position or how or why?
I do want you to say clearly though. So all along you were in support of the troop surge from day one.
I questioned the surge when it was originally announced, but when it came time to vote on a timeline, which would have been against the surge, I stated that I was missing the vote because of a death in the immediate family, but I would oppose the Democrat initiative that was put on the floor, which was to oppose the troop surge. I was not opposed to it in any of my votes at any time that I've been there, period.
Can I comment? This is very important. Can I respond to that? There was a second half to that resolution that is not mentioned.
Excuse me. We do have an agenda. We do have pointed questions. We don't want this to turn into back and forth. This is not what this is.
Well, I will submit this. We appreciate your perusal.
Thank you.
I would like to ask, as we wrap this up, though, we spent a lot of time there on the troop surge, which in some ways very much is past.
While I do not support the President's latest strategy, While I do not support the President's latest strategy, I'd like to also say, Mr. Speaker, that is with great regret that I will not be here at the conclusion of the debate this week. Unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away to a battle with cancer, and I will be heading out to the funeral with my wife and the